What's up, guys? If you're watching this, I hope you're having a great day. Forgive me for my voice being off. I am sick at the moment. But before we get into this video, continuing our series on beating Grandmasters with the Hippopotamus Defense, we have a message from our sponsor for today's video, which is, well, it's me. World Hippo Day was on February 15th, and because of that, until the end of February 20th, I'm giving out a 30% off discount code for my Hippo Defense course, over 6 hours of content. If you're interested in that, go down to the link below, go down to the description, go down to the pinned comment, plug in the discount code World Hippo Day, and you will receive 30% off on your order. All right, y'all, so I recently got to play in chess.com's Bullet Brawl event held once a week. And here I am matched up against Grandmaster Bachman from Paraguay. I start out this game with g3. I go with my usual 1, 2, and 3. I play e3 here, bishop g4. I tuck the knight, the bishop drops back, and now I play h3. Knight bd7, b3. Notice how I developed my king side fully, right, with that knight on e2 before I played b3. I want c3 covered by my knight before I push that pawn. I now play the move bishop to b2. I tuck my other knight, play the move a3, and up until this point, we really have just been doing the same thing that we do in 95% of our Hippo games. There are some setups where we have to adjust, where we have to react, where we have to play differently, right? In my course on the Hippopotamus Defense, which is playing the Hippo from the black perspective, there's some setups from white where you do have to read and react and play differently, but most of the time, you are going to get your full thick-skinned Hippo. This is the breather moment where it's like, okay, for the first time in this game, we actually need to think a little bit. And I ended up going with the move of g4. I'm hesitant to push my g-pawn on the king side if it's not with tempo, but in this case it is. So the bishop is attacked, the bishop runs. I'm now able to tuck this knight to g3 and really have a lot of eyes on that h5 spot, which is very important. Black did go with the move of h5. If the move of e4, this can be concerning, especially with that bishop unleashing against the knight. What do we do in this position as the white side? Well, here we have g5. g5 is a great move. And look, if you want to go to g8, we capture on g7. We're good with that. If you want to go to h5, we have a queen and a knight attacking that spot. So, I mean, we'll just snatch that guy right off. And if bishop takes g3, in this case, we can take on f6 with tempo against the black king. The bishop defends the pawn. And sure, you can get something for that bishop. That's fine. We take back with the king. At the very end of this, we capture on e4. If black wants to take on e4 with the knight or the bishop, we'll trade down. We're good with that. We're up material. And against the move d takes e4, there's a lot of different options here. Knight c4 is one option that we have, looking towards d6, e5, and just general dark squares as a whole. I kind of like the move of rook to f1, long form castling. And we're now going to be able to get our king to g1, which is great. But okay, going back to knight g3, black did not go with e4, but just remember that when you think about knight g3, you really do want to be careful about that bishop. And here, thankfully, we do have that ability to play the move pawn to g5. But okay, h5 is played here. I continue with g5, kicking that knight, pawn to h4, and now we see the move of f6. Now, I played the move of e4, and this is fine. This is fine, but I would say that, there's other options that I think are good. Knight takes h5 is a solid move. The queen does defend that knight, and if black wants to take, we can play queen g4. The whole idea there is that black can no longer take on h4 because the bishop would simply fall off the board. But bishop f3. Bishop f3 instead is the engine move, really going after that pawn. And if black wants to take, we can capture on h5. Notice how we have 3 attackers on that pawn. It's really impossible for black to defend that guy. You only got 1 defender, and you're unable to get a pawn to guard that pawn. So that pawn's going to fall. But okay, we see f takes g5. Let's just say we see that the bishop can capture back. And if you want to take on h4, we take on g6 with check against your king. If something like queen f7, let's say, we can capture on g6 still. And we don't want you to take here. Right? We could take on g5, but better than that is, again, this idea of queen to g4, preventing you from capturing. If a move like queen f6, for example, we can actually take on g5. That is something we're looking at because this knight cannot move without dropping the rook on h8. So if black sees that and goes, hey, I'm going to castle queenside so that my rook is defended, there's multiple things that we can do here, including knight f5, such an active minor piece. b4 is an idea, breaking open the queenside here. Maybe we got to sacrifice a pawn, but that rook is going to get very active into this game. So White here definitely has an advantage going forward with f6. I ended up playing again the move of e4. We see capturing off. I take back. And here the move d4. Now, I play knight takes h5. Turns out the best move here, and this is bullet chess, right? So it's not like we have a lot of time to think. The best move is rook takes h5. Very nice idea. And it turns out black can't take back because we have queen takes h5 with check. If you play queen f7, g6. If you play king d8, g6. And similar to before, that knight cannot move without dropping the rook, right? And if the knight moves, right, to f6, if this guy moves over, we take the rook. If this one moves over, we got to stay on the file. We got to keep that pin active. We can't go back to e2 because then this knight is able to move. It is able to go to g5. It is able to go to f8, and black's fine. Let's keep the queen on that file so that if this knight moves, the rook is ours. But okay, I play the move knight takes h5. We have castling queenside. Knight c4. Just trying to activate my knight, put some pressure on the bishop and the pawn. Bishop c7. Good move there from the GM. I decided to respond with the move of queen to g4. We see the move of knight takes g5 played. And, bishop c1. This is a good move. This is a good move that I did not play. Whenever we have a locked up center in the Hippo, we always want to think about how to activate our bishop to a different spot. This bishop on g2 as well might want to come to h3 at some point due to the fact that this is so locked up. But I instead played the move of b4. b4, trying to break open that queenside. Black ended up taking, and I capture back. And this is good for me, especially in a bullet game setting. You got to understand the time control that you're playing, and this is a good complication for me. Now the king on a8 is vulnerable to attack. Black played the move of king b8 to really put an eye on that square. But let's say black played a move like queen takes b4, king d1. We're at a dead even position. The only move black has that is even in terms of the eval is b5. Anything else, white is winning here. White's winning. For example, queen e7. Let's say, black gets their pawn, they run back. We throw in a check. Your knight cannot block. That knight is pinned. You only got one move. What do we do now? Bishop a3, attacking the queen. You're guarding your knight right now. You're defending your knight. Let's say you go, hey, I'm going to play c5, save my queen, keep holding on to my material here. Well, we throw in a check. You only have one move. We throw in a check, and we're going to snatch that queen right off. So black can fall into very quick trouble here. Remember that in the Hippo, sometimes you can sacrifice that pawn and have a great file for your A-Rook, whether you are white or black, against a castled king on the queen side, right? It's not going to make sense to open this up if the rook is still there. But if black castles queen side, that king is vulnerable in a way that a king side king isn't, since it's already touching the corner spot. But all right, king b8 is played. Black here trying to fix that. I continue with bishop to c1. And, if queen takes b4 was played, we have bishop to d2. The queen's attacked, and now the knight is still attacked by two of our pieces. So that would not be a good move for black. Black did not go with that. We instead see the move of bishop takes h5. Good move from Bachmann. And here I should have played the move of queen takes g5. I should have captured off this knight by doing that, right? I take that off. I'm still putting eyes on that bishop. And if queen takes g5, I capture back, and we're sitting at even material. Instead of that, I captured with the rook, right? This is bullet chess. You don't got a lot of time to think. 1 second goes by. I take with the rook. Here's the problem with that. Black could have played knight to f6. And my queen and my rook are forked. So that wouldn't be good. But black misses this. We have rook takes h5. Queen captures back. Knight to e6. Bishop d2. Knight f4 jumping in there. Let's get rid of that knight. That knight is very annoying, very active. And really, that knight is a lot more active than my bishop, so let's just get rid of it. You can't do a little in-between check there because we simply save our bishop if you do that. So e takes f4 is played. And now I continue in that a5. Not a good move at all. Not a good move. But I think in a bullet chess setting, when you're trying to complicate things, when you have 22 seconds and your opponent has 23, playing something like that, can allow your opponent to make mistakes pretty easily. What should have I done instead of that? Well, king f1 is a move that's popping up for the engine, just getting out of that whole check. I think that's a solid option. e5 is also a move the engine's looking at. I would not even think about that in all honesty, but I think king f1, that makes sense. That makes sense. Get off of that pawn. Make sure that you don't get checked. And by the way, if we do play something like rook to f1, the engine here, says that black is a little bit better, but, it's not winning or anything like that. But again, I played the move knight a5. Guys, this game is not pretty, okay? It's not pretty. It's not, some kind of, game that, I'll always look back on as well played. I think neither of us played very well. But oftentimes in bullet chess, especially when things are complicated, the accuracy goes down because neither side is able to calculate much. And when it comes to tactics, if you play bullet chess, go through your games. Go through your games. Not because those games are the best that you can play. I mean, you can play a lot better with more time, but more because there are tactics that you missed. There are tactics that you missed when you're only moving every 0.5, 0.6, 0.7 seconds. You can go through those tactics and really grow in your tactical understanding of positions. And the goal is that over time, even in bullet chess, your tactics overall improve. But okay, we have queen takes b4. I move my king up. We have queen to c3. Rook a2. I don't want to lose my rook. I don't want to lose the pawn, so I move to a spot where both of those are safe. Knight c5 is played, and I go, hey, I'm going to bring my knight back to c4. Knight a6, and now queen h1. Okay, so this move here, this is the engine move. My idea here is that, hey, I'm trying to get my queen active and into this game. I ended up very soon swinging it all the way over to b1. Knight b4 is played here. Obviously, I got to save my rook. b5 is played, queen b1. Going, hey, if you want to take my knight, I will take your knight with check. So that's not going to be good for black at all. Black responds with the best move from them. And now, knight d2. Get my knight safe. Why not? f3 is played. Now, when I think about that move, I should probably capture with the knight. In the game, I captured with the bishop. I played bishop takes f3. I think knight takes f3 is a little bit better. It feels more natural. But bishop takes f3 is totally fine as well. That's totally fine. I think that bishop's not very active at the moment. I mean, by doing that, you didn't really activate a piece. I think the knight would have been more active on f3. But all that to say, this is still playable. And if bishop f4 attacking our knight, we got to run with that knight to b3. But instead, we have the move of rook to f8. And here I missed the winning move. There's a move here that's winning, and I missed it. Now, as you can see here, I have 12.0 seconds. My opponent has 14. So this is that moment in bullet chess where you're basically just trying to win on time more than checkmate. Okay, we're not trying to checkmate here. We're not trying to promote a pawn necessarily at this moment because our pawns are so far away from getting there. Of course, we want to checkmate, but the name of the game right now is to win on time. And that's not always the case in bullet chess. When the game starts in bullet, I am trying to win. I'm trying to play good chess. But there is that clock factor that obviously plays way more into bullet chess than in other time controls. I continue here with the move of knight to f1, but rook b3 is winning. Why is that? The queen's trapped. The queen has nowhere to go. And if you take on c2, well, I can capture on b4, and if you take the rook, thanks for the queen. If you decide to take my queen, my rook escapes getting captured. So this is completely winning for us. And again, if you take the rook, thanks for the queen. So rook f8, I missed that. I play knight to f1. Bishop d6 is played. Again, I missed the move of rook to b3. In this case, queen takes c2 with check can be played. So we're not going to win the queen per se, but we can still capture off that pawn on b5 and white here with an advantage. We have good activity here, and I think even a move like e5, breaking this game open, looking towards rook b7, depends where the king goes. But we want to play active in an endgame like this. I instead go back to d2. We have pawn to c4, and the engine says to play e5, which, once you really think about it, it makes sense. If the bishop captures, well, we take the knight. If black pins the pawn, for example, knight e4. And sure, you can take with the rook, but we now play king f1. If you don't want to lose your queen, you got to take with the rook here. And we capture back with the bishop. We have an advantage. But I instead play the move d takes c4. d3 with check is played. Capture back. That's pretty straightforward. And now I'm winning this position. So I just gotta play it well. Bishop d6. I just throw a pawn. That move right there, that is not a move that I think is good. That is a move in which case I see my opponent has 7.4 seconds, and I'm trying to make them react. I'm trying to make them react here and spend a little bit of time. They do spend a little bit of time, 0.7 seconds, which is a lot in this moment of the game. Knight e3 is played. The rook captures. I take back with my king. King b7, e5. King goes up, king e2. Knight goes in, we take it. Check, king f3. Notice how quickly these moves are happening when you look at the clocks. Queen takes e5 is played. I throw on a check. And yeah, and black is winning here if they take, because they can now capture on e3. They're going to have 2 pawns against 1, and my king just can't stop both. My king is not going to be able to stop both of those. You know, even if I take with the king here, this pawn is not passed, but now the black king can just start coming over here, go after that pawn. I can't guard this pawn and stop the passer. You just can't do that. So that's winning for black, but of course they have 3.6 seconds. We have king b6. I capture the queen. Now I know I'm winning. So I look to start pre-moving. Notice, I went from 2.7 to 2.6. And on chess.com, when you pre-move, 0.1 seconds go off the clock. You lose 0.1 of a second. So if you have, let's say you have 2 seconds left on the clock and you make 20 pre-moves, boom, 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 right? Like in a Hikaru type style, it would take 20 moves to lose those 2 seconds, right? Every move is 1/10 of a second, okay, is the idea. And on Lead Chess, that's not the case. On Lead Chess, if you make a pre-move, you lose no time at all, but on chess.com, you do. In this kind of position here, for those of you that do play Bullet, this is a dark squared bishop. I'm going to pre-move my pieces to light squares so that I don't lose them. There's nothing that bishop could have done. Nothing at all, right? So we're pre-moving to light squares so that we don't fall into trouble. That is one of the nice things about playing against the bishop in general. They can only see one color, and when you're playing bullet chess, you could use that to your advantage when it comes to the clock. Of course, there I end up capturing it. I have 1.6 seconds left. There I spent 0.8, and now I start pre-moving, right? I capture. A lot of times, guys, I see, you know, players in time control, in time trouble, and they respond by reading and reacting what your opponent does. If you only have 5 seconds, we're talking about no delay. If you have delay, it's different, but if you have no delay, you have no increment, you're just straight up losing time, guys. You got to start pre-moving, okay? You got to start pre-moving at some point. You can't just read and react when you have 3 seconds left. You have to pre-move, and here I end up going in knight c3, queen b1, and that's the game. So thanks for watching through. I'm obviously, my voice is off, and yeah, I'm not feeling the best, but I appreciate you watching to the end of this, and yeah, I wish you guys a great rest of the week. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts. I think in general, when it comes to chess, right, there's different styles of play, but there's also different approaches when it comes to the time control and when you play Bullet, which I'll be honest, I've been playing way too much of lately. There is that game on the board. That's totally true. Most of the games that I play, I'd say in Bullet, are a result of the position itself, but a lot of them come down to the clock too. Maybe 60% of games come down to, this is just a guess based on my experience, but maybe 60% of games that I play come down to, oh, I won or lost because of the position, and maybe the other 40 come down to the clock. That's just a guess, but yeah, so the clock's a big deal, right? But again, if you have increment, if you have delay, it's a whole different ball game, See y'all in the next one. I wanted to finish this video out by saying thank you to Walter, Rob, Steve, Rob, and Ray for helping make this February 2025 video possible, as well as the rest of my Patreon community. I appreciate you guys a ton. And if you haven't thought about becoming a patron before, there's some exclusive benefits that you gain by doing so. And I look forward to seeing you over there on the platform. Peace.